Welcome back to The Script is Better with your hosts, Beck and John.
Hey.
Hello. How are you this week?
Doing well. How are you?
I am doing well, and I'm excited because this week we are reading my pick, Seven Samurai.
All 188 pages of it.
Whoa! Yeah, it was a long one, wasn't it?
It was long.
Okay,
Who writes the script?
It was written by Akira Kurosawa, who's also the director. It was also written with Shinobu Hashimoto and Hideo Oguni, and it was translated by Donald Ritchie. That's how we got our English version. And one other thing I wanted to note right off from the beginning is that it takes place in the Sengoku period, which is an age of warring states between 1467 and 1600.
Okay. Information I did not know.
There you go. Now it's going to color your entire perception of the script.
Yes, absolutely. Now the script. Yeah, no, I don't want to give anything away. Yeah.
I already know that you loved the script, so...
Yeah.
I mean, I'm spoilers.
Yeah. Rude.
No, but right off the bat, I wanted to say, just the fact that it was translated from the Japanese into the English, you really have to wonder what was lost, changed, or interpreted in the translation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, interpreted and potentially added. In the script, there's quite a bit of camera direction. Every line is a camera direction. And I guess because it was written by the person who was going to direct it, which I did not know until you just said that, it makes a lot more sense why all of that is in the script. Clearly has a visual style and wanted that to be in the script that he wrote. So that makes sense why that was in there. So yeah, I guess when it was translated, that was all kept in just because it would make sense that the director/writer would put that in for themselves anyways.
Yeah, well, that's actually a great place to start. Why don't we go from there and then talk about different scenes in the script later on? How did you find the style of the script with all that scene direction and everything?
Like, nigh impossible to read is how I read it. Like, I have an example that I can even just jump to and read quickly. It's on page 15. So this is just 5 lines, and this is how it goes. Low angle close-up of Kanbei looking across the stream. Close-up of Kaikuchiyo staring back. Low angle close-up of Kanbei. He turns away and then looks up again. Close-up of Kaikuchiyo. He scratches his neck. Low angle close-up of Kanbei staring towards Kaikuchiyo. Just reading that, I was like, okay. I don't necessarily know what I have read, because all of those things don't fully compute to me. Like, I really have to think of like what a low angle close-up is. Maybe if those were more in my vernacular as a director, I would immediately be able to picture that thing, but because they're not, I have to really think about them, and then the rest of it kind of gets lost. So I found myself, as I got further and further into the script, and I didn't start doing this until I was maybe like more than halfway, I just started skipping those parts. So I would, instead of going low angle close-up of Kanbei looking across the stream, I would just go Kanbei looking across the stream.
Mm-hmm.
Because knowing what shot it was not helping me.
No, that's completely fair. I could not do that. I have the same trouble with novels. I'll be bored reading a novel, but I cannot skip a paragraph of description, even if it's this boring description of a forest that doesn't need to be in the script. It doesn't add anything to the novel, rather. I have to read it.
Oh.
Yeah,
no skipped words.
No. You gave the tip of shortening some names because there are so many similar names.
Yes.
Like a lot of K names. So you suggested shortening them, and that definitely helped. I took that advice, but I couldn't skip anything.
Okay. So did you have a hard time visualizing what those camera directions as I did?
Yeah, I couldn't visualize them. I don't know what they mean. I didn't look up what they mean, which maybe that's something we should have done. I don't know, but it felt like it wasn't necessary. And it was written by the director, so he obviously was doing half of his work there. But for me, on a regular script, just those 5 lines that you read would just be Kame and Kikyo stand on a hill together. That would have been the full length of that paragraph, but it was extended into 5 lines, which just made it a hard read in general, right?
Yes, a very hard read. So putting the hardness of the read aside, I have a question about the story. Do you think that it's fully an ensemble piece, or that there's a main character in this piece?
If there's a main character, it would probably be Katsushiro.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's the one that wants to become a samurai, so he has that motivation. He's young, so I think he'll be relatable to a larger group of people, and he also is the one that has a love interest. So he seems to be a focus in general that the others aren't necessarily. The only other person I would argue for would be Kanbei, because he seems to be the hero and the leader. But yeah, Katsushiro for me. What about you?
For me, it was Kaichio. He was a jester the whole time, so I understand because of that he can't be the hero. Like, the jester is typically never the hero of the story.
Sure.
It just is what it is. He brought like comic relief throughout most of it. But I just found story-wise at all of the turning points that I kind of noted and the major pillars of the story, I felt that he was always there. Like, he was always involved in that kind of turn. And so I thought that he was just a constant for me. But actually, you saying it's Katsushiro makes a lot of sense now as well, with him having the love interest, him having this dream, and then kind of seeing that dream play out into the very end of being a samurai. And he had the mentor in Kyuzo, like this person that he looked up to, that he kind of followed and tried to learn from and really respected. And then, yeah.
Yeah, but no, you got some good points about Kikuchiyo. And you're right, like, he is the one that kills the leader of the bandits, too.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see that. Like, he's the one that's, in the end, in a way, he's the person who saves the village.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see it. You make a good argument.
Okay.
And, I liked all the samurai. I liked all the characters. There were moments just like with our last script, Without a Cause, that were maybe products of their time and maybe also products of the time that it was writing around, or products of like the Sengoku period. Just stuff around women in that time just seems a little off. But in general, I like the samurai, yeah.
With women, in terms of how Manzo was afraid for his daughter and how the samurai were going to treat his daughter, or just all the women in general?
Yeah, no, that exactly. And then there's also something that we look down on today. Like, there's been comments on video games in the past how there's always the damsel in distress trope. And that was definitely used in this, with all the women are damsels in distress at the end, with the bandit chief looming over them.
Yes.
And the threat of death. But yeah, I think it was the reality of the time and the place that women were lower class. The samurai would definitely a threat. That seemed at least real to me, that these villagers, as much as they're going to the samurai for help, everyone is a threat to these villagers.
Yes.
So, like, their lives are at stake, their sexuality is at stake. There's danger all around for these people. Very
cool. Did you have a favorite scene in the script?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably low angle shot, up to the right. Okay, yes, I probably do. Just with the fact of the way it was written, it's hard to pinpoint a scene, but there are story moments that I liked. I liked, in general, the gathering of the samurai at the beginning, how we saw different styles in each of them.
Yes, absolutely. My favorite scene is from one of the gatherings, and I should apologize. I probably should have apologized earlier for butchering these names, but I'm going to continue to do it. I don't know how to pronounce them, so I apologize. Obviously, after we watch the film, we will know. You sound beautiful already. This is how this is going to come out.
I just refuse to apologize, I guess.
Okay, cool. So, Heihachi or Heihachi?
Okay. It would be Heihachi.
Heihachi. Okay. So his scene when he's doing the log cutting and Gurobe comes to ask him if he'll join their cause. I thought that was the fun scene, how he was introduced. And just at the end that they talk about how Heihachi doesn't do the typical samurai thing and how chopping wood is harder than killing enemies and that sort of thing, and just whatever. He's not really into it. Just at the end, how Gurobe's incidentally, are you interested in killing 20 or 30 bandits? I thought that was pretty funny in the way, at least, that I read it. And I like that there was a little bit of humor in the script. Apart from Takechiyo, who's humorous the entire time. Yeah,
it's true. The stakes seem a little off, right? These are samurai. They're want to risk your lives for a little food?
Yeah. I was wondering, I don't know anything about samurai. I don't even think I've seen a samurai film, period. They are soldiers for hire in a way, are they? Is that typically what they are? They're independent people who follow a samurai code but can be hired by anyone? Is that what it is?
That's actually a great question. I should have noted that at the top as well. So generally, samurai will have a lord that they serve, somebody who's paying them and giving them a place to stay and whatnot. And their honor depends on serving this person and in every way that they can and protecting the people in general. What these samurai were, particularly Kanbei called himself one, was a ronin, which is a samurai who has no lord and he kind of like just wanders around and does things. He can like hire himself out to a lord, or he can help a village like he does in this.
And so all of them, for the purposes of this story, are ronins?
Yeah, it's never explicitly stated, but I think just from the fact that they are wandering around and they can just be hired out like this, I'm 95% sure that they're just ronin. Not just ronin, let's have respect, but
right.
Yeah, they are ronin.
And maybe this is asking too much, but does that get just as much respect as serving a lord, being in that ronin state as if you were tied to somebody?
I think not.
Okay, so you're kind of more like rogue.
Exactly. I think we'd have to do a little bit more research on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But from my understanding, it could also be almost an insult or a title that you don't want to have, because you would be a ronin if you were cast off from your service. So maybe you did something dishonorable. You're still a samurai, but the Lord kicks you out of his house. You're a ronin now.
Okay, true.
So what did you feel about the story in general then, about having to hire samurai, protecting the village? Did you like the story? Did you like the love story, just in general?
I did like the story. Once I had to draw like a timeline and break it down into, this is where I think Act 1 is, and this is where I think the midpoint is, and like I had to write it like that so I could actually see what I thought the story might be, to kind of cut through all of the camera direction and that sort of stuff. And yeah, I really did enjoy it. One thing I didn't enjoy was that, so at the end he says, the bandits are all dead and the villagers are rejoicing, and Kanbei says, we've lost again. No, the farmers are the winners, not us. So he's saying so many of them died, and that means that it wasn't a victory. That's what I understood it. And earlier in the script, he says, if one person dies, then it's a loss.
Yeah.
Not a victory. Even if one casualty happens, it's a failure. We've lost. That's one thing in the story that I thought was tough for me to understand. Because having a 100% success rate is in a battle, that's kind of impossible odds. I mean, you were outnumbered by the bandits already, and you're asking villagers to fight with you when they have none of the training that you have. Somebody is going to die. So you're taking on this thing hoping for no one to die.
Yeah. Personally, I liked that he had that philosophy. He had that belief. Yeah, I thought he was a stronger character for it. He had a purpose, and he wanted to see everyone survive this. And yes, we saw people die earlier in the script, but from the way Kanbei was setting up their defenses and counter-striking against the bandits and everything, like when they went to the bandits' hideout, it all seemed really smart. Like he was really trying his best to make everyone survive. Like you felt the weight of each death, I felt. And I thought it was also just a reminder, like you're completely right. We had that line earlier, if one person dies, then we've lost. But I think I see that restating that at the end, that we have lost, that the farmers have won, but we've lost. I think that's just like a restatement of that fact, just to hammer that home, just in case you don't remember that line from earlier.
Right. And despite the joy that's being like felt in the village right now, like remember what sacrifices have been made to get here, kind of thing. Yeah. Exactly. And then the other question you asked was the love story. So one thing in the script is that they don't put ages for anyone. And so there were a couple times when somebody would be referred to as young, and I would just kind of give them an age. And then Lito would be like, oh, well, that person's still a child. And I would be like, oh, okay, so they're younger than I thought, because they're child age. Yeah. So I definitely thought that Shinu, who is the love interest of Katsushiro, she had to be like maybe even younger than 8 years old, but I thought she was like quite young, especially because her father
8 years old?
Yeah, I thought she was young.
No. Oh, wow. No, I thought
And then I understood later that she was much older, and it was only because her like garments fly open and Katsushiro sees that she has breasts. And I was like, oh, she's developed. So she's like more of an adult. Okay, this makes sense. But when she was first spoken about, I thought that she was a little girl. And I was like, these samurai are coming to rape children. This is This is a dark script.
Wow, Beck, fake news.
For sure, for sure. So yeah, just like putting in ages is definitely very helpful for me at least.
Yeah, maybe again this is the director's script, so maybe he felt he didn't need them. He was like, I know who this person is.
Yeah, any real description of the character and no slug lines throughout the entire thing. Again, another script with no slug lines. Very interesting.
Yeah. Here's the thing. They make a big deal of it right at the beginning, but it's never noted later on. The samurai Kanbei gets his head shaved at the beginning so that he can... Yes. And that's a big deal because that's a symbol of the samurai. People are shocked that it's happening. But then he's going around and he's like recruiting other samurai and no one notes it. No one's like, you're bald. What's wrong?
True.
Everyone's just like, cool. We're going to follow this guy.
Yeah. I wonder how that will play out on screen. If there's any kind of look or anything that is going to be like some hesitation or something like that. I mean, I imagine not because every moment of hesitation is written into the script. So,
that's true. Yeah,
so
literally,
I assume it would be in here.
We're going to see the script is the movie.
Yeah, I doubt there's going to be any difference there.
No,
Except it'll just be easier to differentiate like who's talking because you'll see the actor instead of reading a name that's very similar to another name.
Yeah, I didn't mind just to get back to what we were talking about before, I didn't mind the love story. It seemed a little weird at times. I think it was a lot of like longing looks and like silence, nothing explicitly said.
Yes.
So like they're playing up like the romance of it, I guess.
Yeah. And when she's in a hut, I believe, and she's like lying back and she like spreads her legs and she's like trying to entice him over. And then she starts laughing at him and then she starts to cry. I was like, whoa, you are just throwing everything at the wall right now. You're like, you know what? I'm going to be sexy. That's not working. I'm going to laugh at you. That's not working. I'm going to cry. Like, I don't know what to do, but I need intimacy right now.
It's like Judy all over again.
Yeah.
So I really like the script in general as well. Is there anything else of note that you wanted to talk about around the script?
Yes. So 2 more things. So one thing is the scene where Kakuchio, initially he hops on this horse that belongs to Yohei, I believe, and everyone's like, oh, that horse is not so great. And he's like, it's not the horse, it's the rider. I can do this. And he ends up falling off the horse and nobody can tame this horse. Nobody can ride it. And then later when they're going to the bandits and he goes with them, they like punish him by making him go on that horse. And I just thought that I was like, isn't this a liability to have him on this bunk horse? Especially if they want no casualties. He could be killed while he's distracted by this horse that he cannot tame. And then I was wondering if the goal was that he didn't come with them, that they were hoping that the horse would like not be able to keep up. And so it would just be the 3 of them. But then, no, he did stay with them. He just had a hard time the whole time. I'm like, well, this is unnecessary.
Okay, I just had a thought. Not to turn this into a feminist narrative or anything, but just the way the samurai acted, there was a lot of no means yes or no means convince me. Because with Kikuchiyo, like they said, no, you're not even a samurai. The proof that you showed us, you're not 13. This is ridiculous. But he follows them, and they're like, oh, he followed us. This is great. Okay, you can join us. That'll be our 7th samurai. That's fine. And then with Katsushiro, right at the beginning with Kanbei, he's like, I want you to train me. I want to be a samurai like you. And Kanbei's like, I don't take disciples. And then other things happen, and then Katsushiro is just his disciple. It's just accepted. Shiro follows him, and we're good. And then, yeah, with these other things, it always seems like they're all just waiting to be convinced about something.
It's true. Like just a form of testing. Yeah. I haven't heard those terms that you used before, but I definitely like understood them right away. No means yes or no means like convince me.
Yeah.
As feminists, ideas. It's interesting.
Not as feminist ideas that feminists are trying to like fight against, because there can be a thing in relation. Like, you get it. You get what I'm saying.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. That was one thing that I was curious about that scene. And then another thing was the birds. I didn't note every time it happened, but like a bird sings off. That happened quite a few times in the script, and I wondered if those were attached to specific story beats for the writers. Like, it'll be easier to see, I think, in the film when those bird cues happen, if there's anything specific that happens around those times, because I know that in the script, all the samurai have their own theme songs, so that will be interesting to see that play out as well, because you'll be able to follow, like, this is the samurai's story right now because you hear his theme song in the background. So I wonder, like, what the bird songs are cueing.
Oh, interesting. I didn't notice that. That's really cool. Did you notice how at the end they never mentioned Rikichi's wife again?
Oh, yeah. No, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
She ran back into the burning building, didn't she?
She did, but I assume the building would have been fine in the end. Like, I don't know how much it was burning, but did everyone who was in the building die? I thought all the bandits were in there, so a lot of them got out. They must have been fine. So where did all the women go? Did the samurai and the villagers go up and get the women afterwards? Because otherwise the women are just sitting up there waiting for the bandits to get back.
True.
It was just a little loose end there that they never mentioned again. What I hope they do, they probably won't do because we've already talked about how the film, the script is going to be the exact same. But what I'm hoping is in the film, we see her. She can be one of the women working in the fields. So it can just be like, oh, she's there. She's fine.
Yeah.
Because Rikichi seems really happy at the end, too. So, I mean, like, he seems happy enough to be a man that just got his wife back.
Would he want her back? Because she saw him, and recognized him, and then ran into the flames. So, I don't know.
I don't know, yeah. I took that more as just, like, playing up the drama of the scene.
Yeah.
I don't think she wanted to be with the bandits. Maybe they were good bandits. Who knows? The only other thing that I wanted to say, and like, I'm not sure what else you've got, but I want to talk about the stakes. The stakes of everything seemed real to me. I liked that there was a limited amount of bandits. There were 30 bandits that were coming after this village, and we counted them down as they died. I really like that we were keeping track of that, and it wasn't impossible odds. It wasn't like a Marvel movie where you have this army of guys coming at you, and, oh, we're the Hulk and we're Iron Man, so of course we're going to survive. We're samurai. There's 30 guys. These 30 guys can definitely kill us, but we're going to be wily enough to get around them and fight them and kill them off one by one. It just seemed more real.
Absolutely. I had not put much thought into it, but I would definitely agree with you. Great stakes in it. And like you said, not something that you see too often, because in so many of these kind of, not necessarily action, but yes, kind of more action-packed scripts, you do get that sense of like invincibility with the heroes, where in this one and in this one, you kind of felt every death. Every time, spoiler, a samurai dies, it was, yeah, it was definitely a blow.
True. What else you got?
I think that's all I got. There was one little thing somebody referenced, how villagers and farmers, they're all liars. They say they only have, what were they eating?
They were eating millet and
yeah. They say they only have millet, but if you like look at the floorboards, you'll find like rice and beans and all of this other stuff that they've like hidden away. I just wanted to see that. I wanted there to be a scene where, I don't know, maybe a fire had like brought something, ripped something open, or one of the samurai got knocked into something and there was like this cache of food like just underneath the floorboards. I'm like, is that true, or is that just something you're saying to win your side?
No, that was something he was saying. That was Kikuchiyo saying that. Yeah. He was arguing in favor of the villagers because he was like pulling out all the stereotypes. Like, these are the stereotypes you think of when you think of villagers. But no, like, they're weak and they need help. They need defending. And that's when we get the revelation that he was actually a villager and not really a samurai. Right.
Okay, so he was saying that that's a stereotype and that's not at all true.
Yeah.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, I think he was being, like, facetious.
Yes. Yeah. It must have just been lost on me in the translation. I'm going to blame Donald, was it?
You let me check
yes.
quickly?
Yeah,
Donald Ritchie.
Sorry, Donald. Didn't quite pick up on the subtlety of that one.
Yeah, Donald should apologize to you.
Yeah. Okay, well, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No. I mean, just another knock against Donald. He wrote coup de grace at one point, which was an appropriate phrase, but also, come on, like you didn't use anything like that in the rest of the script.
Oh.
That came out of nowhere. That really took me out of things.
Okay. Interesting. the writer's voice coming, like that's his one moment of putting like his like this is me. I did this into it, and the rest of it is all like translated pretty word for word.
Yeah,
as much as possible.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder if all of his scripts, that's like his signature. He just throws that into all of them.
Coup de grace.
Yeah. Oh, it's another Richie.
Classic Richie. The one French phrase he knows.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, great. Well, let's go watch the movie, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, John, it's your turn. What is your favorite movie?
Okay, well, that's a really hard question. And you know, whenever people are asked these questions, it's always so much easier for them to come up with like a top 5. For me, like Jurassic Park's going to be up there, obviously. I don't know if that's obvious for everyone else, but it should be on everyone's top 5. But I'm going to give it to a different movie. I'm going to say my favorite movie, and it's a movie that I find not many people have seen. It's called Local Hero. It's an 80s movie from 1983. It actually has Burt Lancaster in it. And
somebody I don't know at all.
Yeah. It's a movie about an oil executive guy who gets sent to a little village in Ireland to buy up the land and like buy everyone out of their village so that they can build an oil rig there. And it's like about nature and what our purpose is. And there's like connections between like space and the ocean and life. And it's beautiful. It's such a fantastic movie. And it's hilarious. It's really great. So that's definitely my favorite movie. And Jurassic Park is a close second.
Amazing. I'm going to go watch it because I've never seen it.
Nice.
Fuck.
And back to our regular scheduled programming.
Yay! And we're back. We have just watched Seven Samurai, all like 3 hours and something minutes. Do you know exactly how many?
I don't know exact. I think it was like 3:25.
Yeah, with an intermission built in. So.
Yeah, back in the day, they must have thought that intermissions were the way to go. But I remember when we were younger, it was the 90s that Titanic came out.
Yes.
Yes, they came out in a few different cassettes, right? So you'd have like 2 cassettes. And so that would be your intermission. The time that it took you to get up, go to the VCR, switch out cassettes.
Yeah. I think it's called a VHS tape. Is a cassette not like something that you put in a Walkman?
I think there were still VHS like cassettes.
Okay.
You know, this is going to be a great mystery until I look it up on Google.
I also remember even like less far back than that, Gangs of New York. I don't know if in theaters it had an intermission, but definitely the disc that I had like a side A, side B to it. So halfway through Gangs of New York, you had to get up and flip over the DVD.
Really? A DVD?
Yeah, a DVD with 2 sides. Crazy.
Wow, that is crazy. So it is called a video cassette.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is knowledge that I don't need to have for the future, but I love it.
No, this knowledge you need to have for the past.
Great.
Yeah, that's why it's called a VCR, a video cassette recording.
Oh! Amazing.
Yeah. So just like a little drop of our past. Wait. Heritage moment.
But nothing to do with Canada. Just like a people heritage moment all around the world.
That's right.
Dude, I feel like not everywhere had heritage moments. This is so tangential, but like heritage moments were things that we saw growing up on TV where it would give you a brief history of Canada in like a 30-second block in between commercials. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. The one I remember most is the naming of Canada. They like see a village off to the west or in the distance.
Yes.
And the native is there saying Canada, and one of the guys like, yeah, that's Canada, or no, this whole place is Canada. Yeah. I mean, that's great. Heritage moments and the Log Driver's Waltz video that had. That song was so good.
So good. That cartoon, loved that.
Yeah.
Who did that? That was the National Film Board. You can still watch that. I feel like anytime you bring it up to a Canadian, it's just like everyone's so excited. Yes, that video. I remember watching it as a kid.
Yeah. Weird. Yeah. And log drivers have long poles
kind of like a samurai spear.
Amazing. Yeah.
That was so. I tried so hard. I tried so hard.
I do actually have a log scene that I want to talk about, which I feel like we can jump into that right now. I don't know if you want to go more broad and then specific, but like there's a scene nearing the end of the movie where the bandits are coming through and a bunch of the villagers have 3 long logs and they trap this one bandit that's on a horse in the 3 logs in a triangle and then like spear him down from the horse. And I was like, wow, I don't remember reading that, but I really like that tactic. And I only saw it the one time. I was like, why is this not our go-to? I mean, that guy's dead. Nobody else saw it because he was by himself. So let's just repeat that move a few times.
Yeah. Well, honestly, on the note of repeating moves, I feel like they were doing great. Let's let one guy in at a time. We'll kill him, and then we'll let another guy in. And they did that for a while, and then like, no, now we're just abandoning that. We're just going to let everyone in, and we're going to try to kill everyone without getting any of us killed.
Yeah.
It was just it's like they gave up without even suffering any losses.
Or like, cut for time. Like,
oh, maybe.
You know what? Kurosawa was like, this could be a 4-hour movie and they might have no casualties, or let's just make it 3.5 and throw in some casualties.
Yeah, that's true. We need some drama, tension. Yeah, I loved, just on the note of the fighting and the village tactics, I think the way they were fighting is how I imagine a real fight would go. It's not like you see in the movies these days where everyone is like perfectly timed blocks and swipes and it's just beautiful, like a dance. I think it would be much more like what Kurosawa did in that film, where a samurai and all the villagers are just like waving their swords at each other a bunch, basically, and they're trying to like block and attack at the same time, but it's just all this like wild flailing, and eventually somebody dies.
Absolutely. Wow, I didn't even think of that, but that's a great point. It's in that way, like, I'm curious to know how much of it was choreographed and how much of it was like, okay, guys, don't actually hurt anybody, but like, we're going to do this. Yeah, maybe it wasn't choreographed, you're right. But it was really what I feel is true to the time, regardless. Yeah.
True to war in general. I think I think it's like modern war.
And any kind of fight sequences. I mean, like anytime you watch an MMA fighter versus somebody who, like a comic book movie, is supposed to be trained in MMA and that's how they got to be like a superhero, it's very different. Like one of them is just like uncoordinated, like grappling to the ground and hugging for a while, versus the other one is just like so perfect and beautiful and, like you said, a dance. So for sure, way different.
Yeah. Well, here, I just want to know if I think this is getting ahead of ourselves, but I feel I want to ask, did you like the film?
I liked the film having read the script.
Ooh, interesting. You think you wouldn't have liked the film had you not read the script?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. Just there are so many points where I would have turned it off because it didn't hold my attention anymore. And because I knew what the story was and I knew where it was going, I was interested to see that. Like excited about it and not like, ooh, I wonder how long we're going to go back and forth between these two people staring at each other across the field before something happens, I was like, I know how long it is. I know exactly how long it is. And so I'm not like stuck in this, is this going to get better phase?
Yeah. I've counted the amount of medium shots between each movement.
Yeah.
Okay. An interesting opinion on your end. For me, I would have enjoyed it regardless. I enjoyed the film. I thought the pacing was good. I wouldn't say I was enthralled, but I was never bored.
Okay.
Yes.
Amazing. On the note of pacing, you're saying that you were never bored and you felt that it had a good pace. I'm just recalling the scene in which Kyozo, it's our introduction to him, and he kills the tall samurai as Kanbei and friends are watching. That scene, just going from close-ups of all, let's say, 3 or 4 characters that are portrayed right there, Kyozo, the tall samurai, Kanbei, and I think there's 2 other, maybe Gurobes with him at that point, maybe Rikichi.
2 Gurobes?
Yeah. Gurobe, I don't know, possibly. So those people, it's just like close up of one, close up of another, medium of one, medium, close up, close up, close up. And this goes on for quite a while before any fighting happens, and then no fighting happens. It's just Kyozo like slices him, and that's the end. And I was like, oh my gosh, all of those shots that only showed like a minute change in expression, sometimes no change in expression, while people just all stared at each other, for me was too much. And that's when I would have turned it off had I not known what was coming.
That's a fair criticism. And maybe the reason that I didn't mind it and I didn't find it was too extreme was because when I was younger, I watched a bunch of anime, and they would just do episodes where it would be people standing around, staring at each other and powering up before they even fought. Yeah.
What is it when somebody, it's like Super Saiyan or from
Super
Dragon Ball?
Saiyan. Yeah, exactly. Dragon Ball.
That's what they were doing?
Yeah, they would do an entire episode of that. Like, you'd end one episode, and then you'd start the next episode. It would be all of that, and then you'd get to the end, and they have to build tension, right? Nothing happens in the episode, but they have to build tension, so they have kind of like that same bat time, same bat channel kind of voice, the narrator come on,
right,
and try to build tension about how, like, next time they're definitely going to fight, but they don't.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I just wasn't primed enough for it as a child. Definitely. Like, because I watched anime.
TV.
I def watched Sailor Moon, and right. I feel like there was always action in that show. Pretty stellar action, too.
Yeah, Sailor Moon would have everything wrapped up in an episode.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. I mean, pacing might not be for everyone.
Yeah, but it is for most people, according to the critics. And just worldwide reception. I don't know if you looked into that at all, but I was curious to see how it was received. Again, possibly getting a little ahead of ourselves. But it holds a perfect approval rating of 100%
nice.
On Rotten Tomatoes, based on 57 reviews. And it's, critically acclaimed as a masterpiece and one of the most influential films ever made.
Regardless of what you thought about the pacing, I think you have to agree that for the time, what it was doing, even for now, what it was doing and the way it was shot, the story that it told, and the time period, I think everything came together really well. I think it deserves that 100% personally, even if you get bored in the film.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that. Like, objectively, it was like an ensemble / hero's journey kind of story, which was beautifully done. Absolutely. And it had that love story in there and a nice balance of action, comedy, and drama. All of those things for sure would entitle it to be an amazing film, especially at that time.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm glad we agree on that, because I thought it was, at least visually, and even if I wasn't always entertained, I know that it's a great film. Kind of like no one's going to argue that The Godfather is a good film.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe you don't like mobsters or gangsters and whatnot, but you're going to be like, yeah, that was a good film. I'm not into the theme.
Absolutely.
So are there any scenes in the film that stood out for you?
Yes, there was the one where Manzo comes running looking for Shino near the end and cannot find her, and then finds that she has just given herself to Ketsushiro and then starts beating her for doing this, and is angry that she's now like what's the term, chased or taken woman. She's now, like spoiled goods, if you will.
He called her damaged goods.
Yeah, damaged goods, that's it. So that scene for me was definitely out of left field. I don't remember reading that in the scripts.
It was not in the script.
Okay, that's what I
feel like. Well, I think it might have been left out of the script that we read, maybe accidentally, because there is a scene where I think it's Gorobe sends Manzo off, like, go visit your daughter, and he goes off, and then we get a scene where Katsushiro sleeps with Manzo's daughter Shino, and then nothing comes of it. We just keep going on. So,
if it was left out of this version on purpose or accidental, I definitely appreciated seeing it in the film, because I think it led to the closing of a storyline that was important. I didn't think necessarily like that added much itself, like the beating of his daughter. I was like, ooh, okay. But definitely for that time, that makes sense with how women were treated and that sort of thing. But I thought that Rikishi coming in and saying it's better that she's with a samurai than with a bandit was a nice kind of bow tie on his story, because after we saw his wife kind of run away from him into the fire.
Yeah, burned to death.
Yeah, burned to death. He never really spoke about that again. And so having him just kind of acknowledge that that was a thing that happened just ended that storyline. Whereas when we were talking about the script, it was kind of like, why did we never see anything come of that again?
Those are some very good points that I hadn't considered. When I was seeing that scene, I had a couple of thoughts. One was, would she even be considered damaged goods? I don't know enough about the time, maybe, but I feel like I could see him feeling that maybe his property, like he would probably see her as his property in a way, or something that was his in some way, and that was taken away from him in some way. But would there have been the weight of like, oh, she's been slept with and now she's damaged? Would there have been that?
Like, I don't know enough about the time either, so my view of that was like, I cannot sell her for the highest price in exchange for, like I can't marry my daughter off in exchange for whatever I was going to. Now that she is no longer a virgin, she won't get as much rice or whatever he's looking for in return. I suppose not rice, since they are rice farmers.
Maybe it's a lean winter or something. But I also thought there was two shades of it. It felt very cliche to our time in a way, because or cliche to the cliche of what this scene would be, in that you got the melodramatic, you slept with her, she's damaged goods, and then you cut to like the next morning and the samurai like, hey, you're a man now.
Yes, back to back. I thought that was interesting too. I was like, would they actually have this public celebration of him like losing his virginity? And like, that's not really something they talked about before. Nobody was like, oh, have you ever been with a woman? Like, it wasn't set up. It was just like, we all know that you were a virgin and now you're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. That kind of leads me into kind of like a sidebar almost, but kind of on the same topic. Kakushiro. We don't know very much about his history, and I think that's okay with other people like Kanbei and some of the other samurai, because you can just assume like they were samurai, they were helping people around the countryside, they probably fought in some wars. But Kakushiro comes out of nowhere. He asked to become Kanbei's apprentice, but we don't know where Kakushiro came from before that. I guess we're just supposed to assume that he came from a samurai family, but where is his family in that case? Or has he just been wandering around looking to be apprenticed?
Yes, it's as if he was planted there story-wise. Like, they needed someone who would hold the love story together and be a younger main hero that's on a journey in the story. And so they decided it was this character. And because he's the one that audiences are going to cling on to the most, like they're going to affix themselves to his journey, that you were comfortable not knowing a lot of the backstory and just kind of accepting it because you were with him the whole time. That's the only thing that I can think of maybe why we don't know about him. I would love to think that he was just kind of aimlessly walking about, like, flailing until he, like, stuck himself to a samurai that would allow him to apprentice.
Yeah, because at one point he's kind of lounging around with Shino, and he talks about how he lived a charmed life as if he came from a samurai family or some kind of upper class family, which I guess he must have, but we don't really see that. We don't know where he came from. He's just there. He just randomly sees Kanbei perform this great act, and he's like, I'm going to be your apprentice now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that stuck with me.
Is that your answer? Like, that's what you think? Like, he was in search of somebody to mentor him?
I think the most logical explanation is maybe there's like an upper class family who lives near that village where Kanbei was helping out. Or maybe there is a samurai family who lives there, because a lot of samurai were passing through. Maybe that's like a very big hub town, and he was there, so he was just off on his like morning market stroll, and he saw Kanbei do the thing, and he's like, this is my chance. I need somebody to show me the ropes, and so I'm going to run off, and my family will hear from me in a few months or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A little bit of a runaway. Or they'll never hear of him again, because now he's got a woman, and... two samurai friends, and
he might have died.
And he might have died. Yeah,
totally.
There was one moment, and it's just in the translation that like stopped me. And it was a part that I was kind of excited to see when Kaikuchiyo sits dressed as the bandit next to an actual bandit. And he sits down next to him and turns to him and is like, "How's it going?" And I was like, "What?" What is this supposed to be? So I started like furiously Googling when "how's it going" came into, popular use, and I could not find. It was just like derivatives of "how are you" and "how do you do" started coming about after the 1600s. Yeah. I was like, okay, "how's it going" was definitely not during this time.
So yeah, certainly not in Japan.
No. So whoever made that decision in the subtitles to update that, I was like, oh, weird.
Fair enough. Let me ask you this. Is there anything that was in the script that you were not excited about, but that surprised you in a good way in the film?
I actually did find reading the scenes, the pages and pages of when the bandits actually come back to the village to be very hard to read and hard to follow, because obviously the bandits didn't have names and they weren't like bandit 1, bandit 2. It was just like another bandit and this and then a villager and this, and so it was just like a lot of I don't know exactly what I'm reading or seeing, couldn't follow it. So when I did see it, it went by much, much faster, and I could track everything. So that was nice to see come to life, because I definitely understood the structure of the village and what they had set up, and the sheer architecture, let's say, or how grandiose their setup was to keep the bandits out, and then to see how all of that kind of fell during the battle was very interesting, much more picturesque than I was allowing it to be when I was reading it. Out of frustration, probably.
No doubt. It was a super long script and so hard to read. Picturesque is a very good word to use. It was very well designed, and I loved the scene in the script as well as in the film when you have the samurai. They're kind of just been at the village for a day or two, and you have Kanbei and his kind of second in command, his old friend samurai, with Kakushiro wandering around the village, and you get kind of this montage of different samurai and different villagers preparing in different ways for the battle and preparing their defenses, and you get a taste of who each of these people are, what they're doing to defend themselves, and you got a full look at the entire village. I thought that was really well set up.
I would agree with you. I thoroughly enjoyed that scene as well, and I enjoyed the introduction to everyone a lot as well.
Yeah, I think that was both our favorite scene in the script, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Specifically, Heihachi's scene for me. I loved it. And it played just as funny as I thought it would on screen as it did in the script for me.
Yeah. Were you surprised by the samurai in any way?
I was surprised by Kaikuchiyo. I thought he was much more of a jester than he was. I didn't love him as much as I did in the script. In the script, I found him to be more goofy, whereas on screen, I was like, oh, you're actually scary. Upon your introduction, you're kind of scary because you're not saying anything and you're simply staring and stalking.
Yeah.
So that intro. And then when he comes back and he's drunk, I found in that scene he was also a little bit scary as well, even though he was falling over and not really a threat to them. I just found his facial expressions pretty scary. So anytime he got mad, I was like, oh no, I don't like you.
He would often get mad. Yeah, it's true. It's true. That's funny because I was the exact opposite. I liked Kikuchiro, whatever, however you say his name. I liked him more in the film than in the script, partly because I felt like, despite his shortcomings, I liked his persistence and his pride. And I also could see in his character a comparison to a common character in Japanese and I think Chinese lore, the Monkey King, which is who Goku is based off of as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's this character in I should have looked at. Oh my God. Okay, Beck, next time we do the podcast, we're going to prepare and research things. But this time, I'm just going to say that it's from this famous story, a famous Chinese story that came to Japan afterwards. Mm-hmm. And it has this monkey character who is kind of like a jester character, and he can fight really well, and he just wants to prove himself. And he likes to fight demons, and he is a demon. he's like as good as a fighter as the gods.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I see Kikuchiyo kind of being that character in this film, or like drawing inspiration from that character.
Absolutely. But potentially not as good of a fighter as the other samurai.
No, definitely
Maybe,
not.
yeah. Maybe he's like an 8 and they're 10s.
If he's
I'm being, if I'm being generous.
Yeah. But to be fair, we established that it's all flailing in the end anyway.
It's true. I feel like he flails and then gets tired before the people show up.
He has the longest sword.
Does he actually?
It seemed like a really long sword.
Oh, there was another scene that flagged for me, which I didn't think was in the script, or at least I didn't remember it, and that's when a couple of the bandits are shot after the samurai get a hold of the gun and they shoot a couple of the bandits off their horses. The bandit leader says, "If any more of us turn yellow," and then he does that sign where you like go across your neck as if like you're dead, and then they walk away. And I didn't remember the bandits, one, having any lines ever. And then 2, I also didn't understand what "if any more of us turn yellow" meant. And I thought maybe that meant like turn into cowards and try to run away. Because 2 people that were shot were trying to get on their horses and leave.
Yeah, 2 things. One that was definitely in the script.
Oh, okay.
You're reading that script. Eventually, everything's going to blur together. You're going to read a few pages and not even realize.
Yeah.
That was for sure in the script. 2, yellow is a common phrase for coward.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, like yellow-bellied.
Oh. Oh my gosh. Sidebar. The only time I've heard yellow-bellied is in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. When Clark is freaking out and he's going on about his boss being such a terrible person for not giving bonuses. That's so funny. And I never thought about what it meant. I was just like, expletive something. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is great. Now you know.
Now I understand both of these movies a little bit more.
Yeah.
Is there any other parts that you want to talk about?
There were just a few scenes that I, having just called you out for saying that that you thinking there wasn't a scene in the script that there ended up being. There were a couple of things that I thought were not in the script that were in the film. For one, and I didn't know why they added this to the film because they never referenced it again. When they go to get the samurai and they're kind of waiting around for Kanbei to hire more samurai, the villagers have a little scene where they've lost their rice. Somebody stole their rice. And I don't remember that being in the script. And it seems like it should be a big deal. Maybe they don't have any rice to pay the samurai right now or to prove that they're good for the rice later on. But that never comes up again. There's that scene where the villagers are afraid and then they never reference it.
Yeah, and so what ends up happening is Katsushiro gives them coins to buy more rice so that they'll be able to feed all the other samurai. And he tells them, like, don't mention it, sort of thing. Like, don't talk about it. Hide the money so that nobody sees that I've given you that money.
I missed that part.
Yeah. So immediately after, he gives them money to buy more rice and make sure that they hide it. And I thought that part was interesting, too, because I was like, where's this money from? And why do you not want anyone to know that you have money and are helping them out?
Yeah. Maybe that's just like a save the cat moment. Like, this guy's a really good guy.
Right.
Yeah.
It's definitely not in the script, for sure. Cool. I mean, like, I'm 99% sure. I just quickly did a Control F through the script and tried to find any mention of it, but no.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Okay, in the script, the final scenes, I don't remember them being in rain.
Okay.
Do you know if that was the case? Was that a filming choice? Or was that just like, it's raining all the time, we have to film these scenes, the end battle is in rain?
I don't remember any mention of rain, but I assume all weather in this film was because there was weather.
Yeah, probably.
A lot of it was in the rain. And yeah, I never thought about it, whether it was involved or not. I was just like, yeah, no, this makes sense because, like, you're filming this epic movie and you only have so many days, so you're going to go.
That's true. Yeah, I think rain was a good... If it was a choice, it was a good choice. I thought rain really fit the last battle.
Yeah, and like at this point, maybe it's a little bit cliche, but that's kind of You know, like the sun comes out after you win and the town is happy again.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Okay. So what are we saying, Beck? Script or movie? Which one's better?
The movie's better, in my opinion. I feel like I'm sad I didn't do a drum roll, but at the same time, it's a no-brainer, no? Like, what's done? What do you think? Which one's better?
Yeah. The movie is better. Yeah.
It is better.
The script was just so hard to read.
Absolutely.
And the movie has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right.
Well, that was great. What are we doing next week, Beck?
Next week it's my pick, and we are doing Amélie.
Oh, the French film.
The French film, whose full English title is The Fabulous Destiny of Amélie Poulain. Amélie Poulain. There we go. I got it on the second try.
There's that 13 years of French training for
French
you.
immersion. No, where half of my classes were in French.
Yeah. To be fair, this was Paris French or France French. This wasn't Quebec French, so...
Oh, yeah, so it's just a little bit different.
Yeah, the regional dialect,
Yeah, it comes out when you read it.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to that one.
Me too. See you next week.
See you next week.